our annual every other year. It's my opportunity to kind of update everybody on all the things that we're working on. Of course, I usually like to go to bed early, so I can't talk about everything we do. But that's a lot. Hours and hours and hours. But we'll do some of the highlights, and Tom passed out some of the topics that we're going to cover, and then we can have some question and answer, although this is such a great crowd and we all know each other. So if we're talking about a topic and you want to throw in an idea or an addition or take it a little further, I'd much rather have a dialogue than just have the two of us talk, because we talk to each other all day long. I, of course, want to recognize our affiliation with Sustainable Jersey. They are the group that have really taught us how to do this. And I try to spread the word to all the towns in New Jersey whenever they give me the opportunity. If you haven't looked at it, you have the opportunity, go to the Sustainable New Jersey website, and you can learn everything in the world about being sustainable, things that we can do in the town, and things that you could do at home. I call it, because when I first started doing this a decade ago, I knew nothing about it. I was a sociology major, and I called it Sustainability for Dummies. And I'm not so dumb anymore. So it's really, really great. And then I was lucky enough to meet Tom. I was giving a speech, and kind of, after you give a speech, people come up and they want to talk. And Tom was kind of hanging back, waiting until everybody else came up. And then he came up and he introduced himself, and he said, I live at Islin and I'd like to be on your green team. And I said, well, that is great. I said, why don't you come in, I'll find out what you're interested in, and we'll put you on the green team. He talked to me for 5 minutes. I said, you can't go on the green team. He goes, what? I said, I'm hiring you. And it was the best move I've ever made. And you'll get to know him, and he'll do more of the talking than I will today, because he's enthusiastic, he's passionate, and he gets things done. So we're a good team. So I'm really looking forward to it, because Tom brings a whole new look and doing things that we have never done before. So I can't wait to let you hear from him. So the first thing on the agenda is great. So Sustainable Jersey has started doing things, aside from just all their actions, they started doing gold. And they have gold we got the gold in the only town so far in all of New Jersey to be gold in energy. Next they're coming out gold in water. And that's one of Tom's things, kind of. He's water, flood, climate change, and all of that. So Tom is thrilled to work on this whole new area of what we're doing here in Woodbridge. So Tom is just has to stop welcoming people and come talk about the water story.
Thank you so much, Carol. And thank you for the kind words. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. I can't believe it's over 3 years already, and we've done a lot in 3 years. So I'm happy and just so grateful to be here with all y'all. So the water story is a unique opportunity to essentially look at problems in a new way, right? So water's always been around. It's always been around us. We're 350 years old this year. I'll get into floodplains in a minute, but we have, out of the 10 towns, we have 7 out of the 10 towns have floodplains, and we have catch basins in all of them. So, and there's a reason for that, right? Because it rains in all the towns. So the water story is a unique opportunity to look at stormwater, to look at floodplains, to look at groundwater recharge, to look at all the things that you're seeing in the news now, right? So we're taking a proactive approach to looking at water. So it's not rolled out yet, so I don't want to say too much about it, but I had the opportunity to be on the task force as a municipal liaison for Sustainable Jersey. So to kind of give the boots on the ground approach to the way we're looking at water locally in relation to how Sustainable Jersey is framing this new gold action. So I'm really happy to do that. And just to kind of tease it a little bit, there's going to be some actions on lead and water, groundwater recharge, different ways to look at riparian buffer zones. So the DEP talks about it one way, and we're going to be thinking about it a little more stringently in some cases, but also to promote better ecology. In addition to that, we're also doing some private well testing that's not necessarily a state regulation. So those are just a little bit of the teasers, just to give you a basic idea. And the last one is, to wrap it up, is the water story, right? So it's the full encompassing version of what your local municipality is doing, facing, and thinking about in the future. So it's kind of the blueprint and the backbone of what it is to have water in your community.
And one of the things, as we're talking about water, and water is very much in the news, I want to take this opportunity to reassure everybody that we use Middlesex Water Company, and their water is clean.
Yes.
and we don't have to worry
Yes.
about anything, so it's very reassuring.
Yes.
We also have Rutgers doing some testing of the water in our streams. They're doing Woodbridge River, and they're doing some quality testing, and that will be very interesting. We're not drinking that water, so it's not a concern in that area, but it's just interesting to learn about it and see if there are things that we need to do there. This really leads right into the green infrastructure part.
Yes.
And we had a green infrastructure meeting today. One of the big things that we're doing, and is there anybody who hasn't seen one of our rain gardens? Right out front. And starting on Monday, for those of you who live nearby, we are starting to build a beautiful one on Fulton Street. So if you want to come down and, maybe help a little or just watch how it's done, that would be terrific. Before I let you talk about it, though.
When are you doing it?
Starting Monday. I just want to, first of all, thank the Environmental Commission, because I see many of you here, and we're partners. The Environmental Commission is the core of our green team. I also want to thank our council members, Nancy Drum and Greg Ficara. They make announcements all the time at council meetings about what we're doing. And the one other thank you that I have, we have one major sponsor for everything that we do, and that's Bayshore, and Gary is with Bayshore. We really appreciate it. And whenever we're getting low on money and we need a project, I just pick up the phone and I go, Gar, help. and it's right there. Yeah, so that's really appreciated. So let's talk about rain gardens.
Sure. So rain gardens, just so we're on the same page, right? It's a catch and release. So rain gardens are designed and engineered to capture stormwater runoff up to about your first inch of rainfall. So we all know we've seen these intense, heavy rainfalls a lot more frequently, right? So these structures are designed and engineered to look aesthetically pleasing, but they're also, they have bioretention soil, so the water percolates faster. There's also these overflow drainage pipes, so when it reaches capacity, it could actually overflow into our existing stormwater system. But the plants themselves, although they look beautiful, they're native. They also function to filter that stormwater before it reaches our local waterways. So what you're looking at is what Kyle just mentioned. So it's the Fulton Street proposed rain garden. So we're really excited about these. Construction's going to start on Monday, actually. It's all marked out. So we have four different structures here, actually. So the island on Fulton Street, and then coming down off of the bridge, and then along the railroad tracks. So the Rutgers folks that designed this also put a music note in here in the trench. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but we have our local music industry down there. So They're really thoughtful in how they help us design these, and we're really excited about this project. It's one of our largest ones so far. If you want to see the oldest one that was installed, well, the oldest one is actually the health center. That was about 15 years ago. And when Rutgers came back in and started working with us again, they started at Kennedy Park. So those of you who know, Kennedy Park has had ponding issues for a long time. And now you could actually see it. It's about 3.5, 4 years old now, and the flowers are almost as tall as I am. It doesn't say a lot, but for a flower, it's good. So if you guys have a chance, definitely check it out. So it's done a lot of good use there, and certainly out in front of Town Hall too. So we also have a couple more in Port Reading. That's with actually a different team from Rutgers. This team is Dr. Brooke Maslow's team. Other one was Chris Abrupta. If you scroll down a little bit there, Leon, to page 3. Yep. Next one down. There we go. So these are parcels in Port Reading that were bought out due to Blue Acres. So they were flood risk structures that the state came in and decided that they were going to offer families pre-storm value for their home based on their flood risk and vulnerability due to Superstorm Sandy. If you scroll down a little bit more, Leon, to the next page. Thank you, sir. So you'll see the same type of design, right? So within these parcels now we're thinking more about the resiliency component, right? So what can we do to better enhance flood storage capacity and also ensure that the neighborhood looks and stays beautiful? So just another component, a slightly different team in Rutgers, but again, green infrastructure, so we're really excited.
Yeah, we couldn't be doing the good part of what we're doing without the work from Rutgers. Some of it, they get us grants, and they do it without much charge, and some of them we pay for through engineering. But it's invaluable. They come and they check the Blue Acres where they've been doing plantings. Anytime you look around, they're there. They're checking it out. They make sure that it's working. We had a meeting with them today, and their services are just invaluable. And they are a big part of our team.
Absolutely, yeah. We can't say enough great things about Rutgers. They've helped us in so many ways. We actually won a New Jersey Association of State Floodplain Management Award for an outstanding floodplain management program as a result of working with Dr. Maslow and her team. So one program gets awarded each year. It's not necessarily a municipality. We were awarded in 2017 for the proactive approach that we took to resiliency. So a lot of times after homes are bought out and parcels are left, it's just a mow and go. It doesn't do a lot for ecology. It doesn't do anything for flood storage. We've been proactive in Woodbridge. We worked a lot with Paul McGee. She's great at DEP and her team. And we've thought a lot about what to do next. So Leon, if you want to scroll down a little bit, this is what to do next, right? So these open space restoration plans, trying to connect people to habitat and also have a resiliency component to these strong weather patterns that are just becoming increasingly frequent. A little more, less depressing, Leon, please. Thank you, sir. So again, this was a report that was done back in 2015 to respond to what we do after the storm, right? So if we keep scrolling through, you can kind of see that there was existing conditions that they looked at. If we keep scrolling through, you could go down a little further there, Leon, to the pretty pictures. So since then, they've taken out 2 acres of impervious surface, 5 acres of Phragmites, which is extremely invasive and chokes out biodiversity. And they've begun to paint these kinds of pictures in reality. So we actually just had a meeting today where we're starting to talk about trails and interpretive signage and things for the next year of that were just kind of thought of 3 or 4 years ago and are now really coming to fruition.
We're talking about the plan for next year, and we're going to make the Blue Acres not just a restoration, but we're going to make it into a park, and that's what we've been talking about since day one. That is going to be our goal. We're also talking about it. I find this very exciting. working on a trail along the Woodbridge River and connecting from Avenel all the way through Woodbridge to parts of Seawar. So that should be really, really fun. That's a long-term project, but we're going to get started in the next year or so.
And that goes again to Rutgers' approach. So they helped us get a grant through NIFWIF, and that's part of the planning is to make these larger connections and connectivity pieces. Want to go to the next topic here?
Sure, that's yours too.
Okay, so Leon, can you open the flood poster?
Anybody here have in a floodplain and have FEMA insurance? Oh, okay. Well, if anybody's watching on TV and you have FEMA insurance and you got your bill for your insurance and you saved 20%, you can thank Tom for that. And he will tell you how that happened.
Team effort. Thank you. Team effort. So the community rating system is a function of the National Flood Insurance Program. It's a FEMA program. The National Flood Insurance Program is mandatory, right? So you have to participate in that. You don't have a choice. The CRS, the community rating system, is not mandatory. It's a step above that, and just like everything else we do in Woodbridge, we decided to go and take that next step up. We're one of the largest municipalities in the CRS. Only about 5% in the country make it into the CRS program. And essentially what you have to do is prove to FEMA that you're doing things above and beyond the National Flood Insurance Program. So like you just saw, that those resiliency measures that we're doing, that's certainly one step, right? There's 96 elements to the CRS program. So we've done everything from instituting local ordinances to ensuring that we have problem sites well mapped on GIS, and we know where they are. We know how to respond to them, and we have it actually correlated to a real-time system. So when they are correctively addressed in the field, I get a live update on my end in the office. So we're doing these really unique, innovative approaches to not only combat overbank flooding and storm surge, but also, like we talked about earlier, those heavy storm events, those just nuisance flooding events, those 3-4 inches of rain in 2 hours. And what that does is it discounts flood insurance. So it comes right off the policy of the homeowner and the town. The town has buildings in floodplains, so we save directly. And essentially, for every 500 points that you're credited in the CRS program, you move up a class. We are a class 6. If you're a 10, you're out. If you're a 1, you're the best, and we're shooting for the best because that's what we do. But for right now, we got it out of 6, so it's 20% discount.
And it keeps getting harder and harder to,
yes.
to move up a class. But I was just going to say something, and of course I forgot. But, I know what it was. So it's also a great tool for us as we do planning. An example is today, somebody came in and they bought a piece of property on South Fulton. And that's an area where maybe it is a flood, and I wasn't sure. We just picked up the phone, called Tom's extension. Can you check whatever the number was, South Fulton? 2 minutes later, even if that, no, it's not. And so we were able to continue the discussion. If it were, he would have, the new owner would have sat down with Tom, and he would have said, well, you got to elevate, you got to do this, you got to do that, and made it work for him. So it's a process that really works very well for everybody. This is something new that we're doing. You want to talk about the problem site maintenance?
Sure. So I alluded to it a little bit, right? But problem site maintenance is part of the CRS program. It doesn't have to be, but the way we instituted it essentially was based on what we were already doing, because we do these great things already. So we took a look at how DPW was responding to these issues that needed corrective maintenance. Then we looked at the CRS program and said, okay, well, we're doing this. How do we make it even better and fit into the box of the CRS program? So like I mentioned, now we have this system that it's alive and it's interactive. I know the inspector that does these. He's great, and he corresponds with me directly before a storm event. So we get updates internally at Town Hall when we know a storm is coming, right? So it's 3 inches of rainfall, 2 inches of rainfall. I then correspond with him directly, and I get live updates when he checks these issues for preventive maintenance. So We know we can't fix multi-million-dollar, storm drainage every year, but we can do preventive maintenance and we can plan for the long term, which is what we're doing, which is why we're doing these rain gardens, why we're taking such aggressive steps at providing these flood storage areas in our Blue Acres parcels. So it's the best case scenario for areas that in an old town, in any town, you have drainage issues. So that's our new program.
And what, on the lighter side, while we're talking about storm drains, what our students are doing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Leon, can you go to the Paint the Drain sketch? If it's called that. It might, it's just one of those guys. Perfect.
There it is.
So,
how cool is that?
This is out in front of JJ Bidding, right at the crosswalk. And it's essentially an educational piece from one of our students at John F. Kennedy Memorial High School who worked with the teacher, Ricky Viteri, to come up with a sketch to educate folks about where the storm water goes, right? It doesn't just disappear. At least most of it doesn't. It drains to our waterways. And this is an educational outreach to try to make folks realize that, everything that water carries to these catch basins essentially drains to our waterways.
So I'm hoping, and it is contagious. So students at St. James are going to do it. I'm sure there are going to be Colonia High School students that are going to do it. And quite frankly, if a family wants to do a little project in front of their house where there's a drain, and because you know what? A lot of the contaminants come right down the driveway when people are changing their oil. So that's a good place for it. Let us know, and we'll tell you what kind of paint you need to use, and we'll help you with it. But just with the message, this is whatever you put in there is going out to the river, and it will. So it's a fun way to do it, and I love otters. So I think we talked about Blue Acres already. Today I had a great meeting down in the waterfront in the Caseby section. We are planning on doing a walkway that will be the first time we actually have access to the Raritan River from Woodbridge. And you're not going to be able to jump in the river, but you'll be able to go down there and see it. And so we're very excited about that. It's a project that's taking much longer than we ever expected, but they just found more contamination right in the access site. So it's going to be quite a bit longer, but all good things, we can wait. And Peter Vichelia at Federal Business Centers, which is right next door, has been helping us so that we can extend this from the Epic property all the way across to the border of Edison. They paid for and did all of the permitting. We just put in our capital budget to do a little bridge, a little creek, I guess you would call it, that needs a bridge to go over it. And the county has a access road for, what is that, the county utility or something, whatever. And so there's a road that's right there that we can use for our walkway. So I think the Edison half will be done before our part. And we'll have a kayak area there, so that'll be fun. Also, across the street there in Caseby, on the other side of Industrial Avenue, we just got completed. Chemtura contaminated the soil, not only on their property, but on all their neighbors. They got everybody. We owned property, a couple of ponds right near Industrial Avenue, and they were contaminated. And initially, they were just going to do, a makeshift kind of cleanup, but they have to do what we approve of, and they did a thorough cleanup. And ultimately, we're going to be able to, I keep going back to 1950 with the Andy Griffith Show and seeing Opie in there with his stick fishing pole. But that's the kind of pond it's going to be, where you can actually throw in a line and catch fish. And it's also been verified by Rutgers that it is one of the northernmost spots of the pine lands, that it has the trees and the plants and all of the things. So we're going to have signs, and we're hoping actually that there's school trips to go see what that is. So it's another amenity. So, and let's go to Ernie Orris. Why don't, instead of us talking about it, why don't we let one of you guys talk? You want to talk about the Oros preservation?
Be my guest.
Put you on the spot. Give Tom a chance to rest.
I'm Roberta Martin from the Woodbridge River Watch.
I'm Rich Oros. A lot of you knew my dad, Ernie, and we've been trying to run the River Watch for the last couple of years, trying to keep it going, keep the park going and everything. One of the things we're trying to push for is getting the towns and the schools involved and bringing out individual classes so that we have nature walks. This past Tuesday we had what's called Rise.
Rise.
Yeah, we had Rise out there. We had 31 students from the Rise group, and we had a good time with them. They did a great job in the butterfly garden for us, and they did a wonderful job with the one trail, raking out the trail for us. So we enjoyed doing that. And I don't know, what else you want to talk about?
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to be talking yet. So,
You guys had classes out there last year, right?
yeah, we
did.
had about 5 or 6 classes last year. We had more the other year. We'd really like to bring out the kids, especially in the fall and in the springtime. That's one of the best things, and I would love to do that every year. And because every year you get different students, and my goal, what I'd love to see is that we have the 3rd graders come in, and I'd love to get into the 7th and 8th graders to come out also in a number of years, and hopefully they would be involved with the 3rd grade. They come out in the 7th grade, and
the high school students,
we do the high schools, and we get the science teachers involved to start doing different testing there and everything to teach kids what they could do. Give a kid one responsibility. Say, take that 1 square foot of land, and how many spiders are in there? To teach them how much nature really is in a small little area. We're having next week from South Plainfield.
No, Scotch Plains.
Scotch
We've had
Plains.
for a couple of years. Zach, I forget what his last name is, for the past 3 years has had his kids from his group come out to Oros Park, and Rich and I give them a little talk, and then the kids have a science experiment that they have to complete. So.
Yeah, he brings that. They makes kits. He has kits for all they're bunched together in this group, and they have to do certain things as testing. And what was the one he did about the road? Do you remember what the actual term he used?
No.
He used the scientific term of what tar actually is, right? And we got one little section of the park that has some tar on it, and none of the kids could find it. He says, come on, and all year long we've been talking about this. What type of earth has this kind of substance in it? They couldn't figure it out. I just thought it was funny, that's all. But that's what he did to get the kids involved, and they had certain things they had to do and certain tests they had to perform, and they did that all during the day there, which was pretty good for them.
I think some of it had to do with trees and...
Oh, he had trees and the stream and the different type of plants that were there.
Right,
yeah.
Different trees and
And testing of the soil. He had testing of the soil, what the type of different soil was and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting.
Who haven't been down to the park, it's a different type of park. It's a county park, and it's a county park that also is being done with a lot of stuff from the Woodbridge Park Department is doing things, and it's all about the nature. We have nature trails. We have the Boy Scouts that do a lot of work.
Eagle Scout projects.
The Eagle Scout projects have done a lot of our projects down there for us. They've done a wonderful job for us. So
How's the Green Vest work?
I haven't seen them around, but they're still supposed to be checking on all the work that they did.
Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know, that it was, I guess about 3 years ago that the county got a grant, and they ripped out, well, they had to use a chemical, unfortunately, but they got rid of a lot of the Phragmites out there. And then they came in and they planted trees and shrubs. They scattered seed around in some of the fields. They put up deer fencing to hopefully to keep the deer out. And the thing that always amazes me is the two guys from Green Vest that we got to know, Doug and I can't remember the other guy's name. Over one weekend, they put in 68,000 plugs in the water. It just blows me away when they took just the two guys that did that. So that's all to attract more wildlife. Obviously, then to give some of the native plants a chance to grow and to get rid of the invasive species like the Phragmites. So they did an absolutely phenomenal job. We're really happy with that.
And one of the nicest things that's coming out of that was we have 3 different type of habitats in this area, which kind of makes it unique. We got the open area, we got the woods, we got the pond, and we got the swamp, really. So we got 4 different types, which all have different type of birds, different type of insects, and different type of environment growing. And the Phragmites, which if anybody's familiar with the Phragmites, they just choked everything out. We had one little stream that was, I don't know, about 4 feet across. When they got there, it was just about this wide, because it was just Phragmites had just choked it out completely. And now it's wide open again, and we got different type of birds. We're getting a lot of hare in there now, and a lot of fishermen.
A lot more fish
and again,
eels.
What you said, one of the best things I could see happening is having a walkway from our park all the way down the river, all the way to the Blue Acre Project. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And part of that is done because the Mosquito Commission a number of years ago got a grant. I don't know through the town or from the county. I'm not even sure how they got the grant to dredge the river all the way up. And one of the guys did that was doing it, he purposely piled on one side and made the other side clear so that there was a walkway, so that everybody could actually see how wonderful it would be to have that walkway. Right now it's about 3 blocks long.
Right.
It goes down, I don't even know the names of the streets that it goes down to. Homestead is as far as it goes down?
I think it stops at Egerton. That's where we fell into the water.
Is that where it is? And you can see how wonderful it is. And if you've seen pictures of it, which is really small at the time, now it's really wide, and the amount of heron that are there that go fishing now in the morning, you can see them there lining up, and we get a lot of deer there now also. So a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
This is great. You can tell this is out of love, what they're doing. Tom, do you have a paper we can pass around for attendance? Oh, that's good. Break small, everybody. I started? Thank you.
Okay, let's see what we got next on here. Okay, next is Arts and APAC. Everybody know about the Avenel Performing Arts Center? So we do believe that sustainability is not just the environment. It's about people and all of us. If sustainable is what you do today is good for tomorrow. And if we as people are not living a healthy life, and that's where Greg Ficara is very much with the wellness, and if we're not in tune with the arts and we're not getting along with our neighbors, then that's not a sustainable community. So we have been really working on building up the arts in all over town. In Woodbridge, we have, of course, we have, 56 free concerts all summer long. We have, this weekend, I'm not supposed to say anything on TV Day because by the time this is showing, it will have happened, but we have a jazz festival going on. So, and so we're just working on, even the artwork by the Drains. This is all part of bringing arts and sustainability together. The Avenel Performing Arts Center is now like the hub of our arts.
It's the shows there are absolutely fantastic. Curtin's restaurant is very nice. They fixed up that playground, and people are there all the time. They even have adult exercise equipment. So it's just gorgeous. And it's right on the train station. And when we started building it, we talked to New Jersey Transit, and because there were no stops on the weekend, there were maybe 4 stops a day, so it's hard to call it a transit village when the train doesn't stop. And they kept promising, you bring the ridership and we'll make the stops. And tomorrow we're having a celebration of the fact that it is going to now be a full service train station. It stops on the weekends, many stops that Woodbridge has, they will have, and it just makes the whole thing so much better. And it just shows the role that transit and the arts and residential and all of that plays together. So we're very, very excited about it. So I just mentioned something about the health and the role that plays. Can I put you on the spot, Greg, to talk a little bit about the what?
I thought I was just attending this.
No.
Well, I guess, hi Gary, how are you? That's it. I guess, nice job. Most of you realize that if you care about the environment, most people are also into wellness and health, and they seem to go hand in hand. But we do run a number of events, and we do promote bicycling, which all fits in with sustainability and taking care of our environment. I don't know if I can remember the quote exactly, but a long time ago when we went to Washington, D.C. with the YMCA, the statement was if we walked or biked more, we could, number one, certainly help our environment because it's less emissions. We're going to help ourselves out because we're spending less money on gas. And hopefully if we're healthy, we're going to spend less time at the doctor's office and the hospitals. And that's the ultimate goal of the Wellness Committee, is just to get the word out that, Woodbridge is a town that promotes between the road races we have and the bicycle tour that's coming up the last Sunday of this month, and through Carolyn's work, the Share the Road project that we have going on out there. So those are all things where we kind of mesh together. When you talk about the performing arts and you talk about wellness, it all goes together with the environment. So we try to keep that in mind, and we appreciate your considering us.
And you have to check out the adult, what do you call it?
It's fitness equipment, folks. If you have been to any of our parks, there are pull-up bars, and there may be bars to do push-ups or step up in. But just like the way things happen in Woodbridge on a regular basis, I had come across some fitness equipment that you would see in a gymnasium, possibly a bench press or an elliptical. And there is a company that makes that to be outside in parks. It's actually fitness equipment. So of course we bring the idea back, and you can't challenge Carolyn or the mayor. And sure enough, after a series of time, we're one of the first parks in New Jersey. Bayonne has a nice setup to have this equipment, and we're looking to expand it. So it's really cool. And my explanation is not doing it justice. If you have time, go over to Eric LeGrand Park, check it out yourself. It's amazing.
Well, what I like about it is it's placed so that if you have a child playing on the play equipment, you don't have to sit on the bench and watch them. You can actually be working out and watching them and see what they're doing. So I think that's pretty fantastic. So while I'm putting people on the spot, Nancy, Councilwoman Jerome, you want to talk a little bit about the buy local? And I actually brought you a little prop here. This is what we've been taking around to the businesses.
Hi, everyone. I'm Councilwoman here in Woodbridge Proper and Seabourn, and I also work at the Chamber of Commerce as a membership director. So I'm pretty hands-on with a lot of the businesses. We have over 360 in the chamber, and there's many of our local businesses. So what we do is we try to bring this out to them. It's a survey, and there's all these different categories. Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you do that? to try to make them as sustainable and as greenable as we can. And then they get a sticker for their door. And we try to send the students out in the high schools and get them excited about it. Some of them have the environmental clubs, so that's something that we do here in town. There's 10 green categories. So I'm not going to read them all off, but for example, a few of them: turn off unnecessary lights at night and on weekends. Do you do that? Yes, check it off. Use recycled paper, use green cleaning supplies, those type of things. So we are doing our best in that opportunity to our local businesses to try to get them as greenable as possible.
Thank you. And one of the things another thing that we're doing with local businesses is with the Department of Health, they went to every restaurant in town and did a survey, and we are going to be, the responses were really good. And so we are going to be going out with the mayor and Channel 35 and giving out proclamations, bringing awards to all of the restaurants who did a really, really good job. Very, very proud of them. And we also do a survey with the child care centers. The first year we did it, it was like maybe half of the things they did. Last year when we did it, almost all of them did almost all of the things. It became more of an educational tool, which is exactly what we wanted. So these are just the little things we can be doing. And now, Tom, I went totally off of your... So I think we can probably... we can put Gary on the spot. Next up is recycling.
Good evening, Gary Sunbar from Bay Shore. Recycling is a misconception. Folks kind of think it's mom and apple pie and the Boy Scouts and collecting newspapers. It's really an incredibly, as you know, competitive business that's international in scope. And it's really the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It is commodities exchange. And for the first time in the history of recycling, we have a very significant market disruption. Over time, most of the material that was collected, all the stuff that we put out in front of the house that gets processed by Bayshore, we have to send it to markets. Those markets predominantly were international. And about 70% of the international material went to China. And for public policy reasons, which we could spend most of the night talking about, China basically shut down the market. Other Asian countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, India have followed suit. So there's pretty much a ban on international shipment of recyclable material. So what we have is a classic in economic terms supply and demand problem. So New Jersey is like the epicenter of recycling. We've had mandatory recycling for 32 years. One of the best states in the country. We have all the supply. We don't have as many places to send it because we don't have any international markets. So fortunately for Bayshore, we have people do nothing all day but look for markets. And fortunately, we have good domestic markets. So we're still able to move material, but it's a crisis. It's the first ever crisis. We want to talk about sort of historical terms. It's sort of like a depression, really, in recycling. And we'll get through it, just like we got through the Great Depression, but it's a very hard time. And the thing that's very difficult and very alarming to me, I've been involved in this for 40 years, is it was always so economic to recycle. And we, even at Bayshore, 3-4 years ago, were able to pay $10 a ton for the privilege of getting that commodity because we could market it and we could make money on it and stay in business. The economics are completely changed, and now, for the first time ever, we have to ask, any processor has to ask towns to pay. So the average number, I'll just throw out a number, is about $65 a ton. So we went from paying $10 a ton to having to charge $65 a ton, and not to brag Bayshore, we're still the cheapest people around. Yeah. It's even worse. In a lot of places, we're in a very dangerous zone where the cost of recycling is now the same or more than the cost of disposal. That's a frightening place.
It's very frightening. You know, we always say it's the two greens. It's the green of the money and it's the green of the environment. And I mean, I'm determined, even if it starts tipping where, you know, it's cheaper to go to the landfill.
this stuff isn't going there.
And unfortunately, the
yeah.
law still remains
Right.
a law. It is mandatory. And I'm very involved in our state Association of New Jersey Recyclers. Our state legislature holds one joint hearing every summer on a particular topic for the environment committees. This year it was dedicated to recycling. We presented through Anger a 14-point plan on what we think we can do to get through this difficult depression period and get back on track. And hopefully we will get there. It's a matter of how quickly we'll get there. And I'll mention just one other piece, if I could, because you had food waste on there.
Oh, yeah, but before you go
Okay,
to food
sure.
waste, I just want to say that there are things that we can all do in our
Thank
homes.
you.
What China is closing the doors to is dirty recycling. So if you have, if you're not careful and you put in that pizza box with pizza still stuck on the lid, that's what they don't want, and that would contaminate a whole entire load. So if you're just careful about what you're putting into the recycling, then first of all, we don't pay as much to Bayshore because we're sending them clean paper, clean recycling. I laugh at myself now because I like the creamer in the plastic bottle to put in my coffee. I'm putting the bottle into my dishwasher. I can't believe I'm washing my garbage. But that's really what you have to do. So,
Thank you, because a lot of this stuff becomes so cosmic, like international markets in China. What can we do?
right.
That's it. And the county has a great campaign. It's called Recycle Right. They invested in something really practical. They bought refrigerator magnets for everybody. So Audrey Rosger, who's one of the best recycling coordinators in the state of Woodbridge Township, has a big supply of these things. You can put it right on the refrigerator, and you can see what can I recycle, what can't I recycle, because we've evolved. We're a victim of our own success.
Yeah.
And the term people use is aspirational recycling. People think everything is recyclable, and that they can't put it in the garbage, so they put it in recycling. But that's really the worst thing you can do, because that results in contamination. And stuff like hoses, and they call them tanglers now, hoses, rope, twine, tape of any kind. That gets in our equipment. Honest to goodness, we have to shut our equipment down at least twice a day and have human beings climb in the machines to pull all that junk out. And it just ruins our productivity. And as you said, Carol, it's no good for anybody.
Right.
And we wind up throwing it in the landfill anyway, So Recycle Right and Woodbridge, once again, leading the charge. The county had small grants for doing inspections. And Audrey and her team went and got one of those grants, and they've been out and they've been checking. And it's not a punitive thing to fine people. It's to put a little sticker on there to say, we put the wrong stuff in there. Please do it right.
Did you get one?
Pizza box.
That's what gets you every time.
Yeah.
So if I could just one of those,
Yes.
the food waste on there, and it is such an exciting area. We have to get through the bump with curbside stuff, but food has always been ignored. And some studies have been done that have shown that what's left in the garbage can after 32 years of mandatory recycling, 25% of it is food. It is the next frontier in recycling if we're going to be more sustainable. And finally, folks are really recognizing that. So there's two very exciting things happening in the state. One is a major focus on food waste reduction. And we have a law passed that Governor Christie actually signed in 2017, Food Waste Reduction Act. And it calls for reducing the amount of food wasted by 50% by 2030. And DEP was charged with coming out with a plan to how we're going to do that. And that plan came out 2 weeks ago. And Governor Murphy signed a package of 10 different bills in May of this past year. And one of them creates a food waste task force, a dedicated group to look at what can we do to reduce food. Because here's sort of the metric that sort of blows my mind. 40% of all food produced goes to waste. And in a place like New Jersey, we have the second highest median income of any state in the most affluent industrialized country in the world, which is the United States of America. So we are extremely wealthy, and even with that, 11% of our population of New Jersey is underserved with food. Now that's a problem. There's something wrong with that. So these plans are dedicated to connecting the dots between not-for-profit organizations to feed hungry people and dispel the misconceptions, those food labels that say it expired, it's not expired. You know, it's a marketing issue. Restaurants and other places can donate food, and they have immunity from prosecution under a Good Samaritan Act that we've had in place in New Jersey for 27 years. But nobody knows about it. So the good news, I'm very excited about it, I'm sorry, is that we have a really good focus on it. And the last piece, the other side of that, after you feed hungry people, you're still going to have food that's left. And we had some success with state legislation, which would be a landfill ban on disposal of food. And the bill is S1206. And it had a terrible exemption. So this law that got passed by our legislature literally said, we're going to recycle, we're going to recycle food, right? And then it gave an exemption that exempted all 21 counts. So it didn't mean anything.
Oh, Lord.
So we attacked this, and it was really exciting. The governor conditionally vetoed the bill and took out the entire exemption. So we'll see what the legislature does with that. We're not done yet, but if we can get that as well, we'll finally have a comprehensive approach to feed hungry people and recycle and compost food so we don't stick it in a landfill and create more methane gas, which is the worst greenhouse gas that's out there.
Right. And we're doing some baby steps here in Woodbridge. Thanks to Audrey and DPW, we are collecting the food waste that is produced in our schools and sending that out. So it started in the high schools. They included the middle schools this year, and I think they are going to be going down to the elementary schools. And my hope is that the next step would be maybe letting people, you know, if you're bringing your kids to school, you can bring your food waste with you. So that would be the next step, and it's something we have to look at and work on. But and maybe then the step after that would be a voluntary program, curbside pickup, voluntary. So down the road, but part of this is talking about our vision for the future, and that would be part of our vision.
Out of curiosity, you're collecting this and doing what with it? I mean,
What do they do at Waste Management with this?
I mean,
It's a bio
there's
thing,
two
right?
very exciting things. So what Carol has looked at in Woodbridge most recently is a very exciting development where for wastewater, we've built very large wastewater treatment plants at all the major utilities, Middlesex County Utilities Authority, Linden Roselle, Broadway Valley Sewage Authority, and they're underutilized. And so they're already paid for. They're already paid for through public dollars. We flush the toilet, it's got a place to go, and it gets treated. So somebody finally thought of connecting the dots between solid waste and wastewater, and in Waste Management took an old transfer station in Elizabeth, and they converted it to a food recycling facility. It's called a Class C recycling facility, and they have a big blender. It's got a term of art, which is a macerator. So they take source-separated food, they throw it in a blender, they blend it up, they put it into a tanker truck, they drop it up to the Broadway Valley Sewage Authority, they put a hose on it, and they put it right into the secondary wastewater treatment digester. And by doing that, what they're doing is they're creating more natural gas, which they can collect and put right into the pipeline and clean it up and use it. So it's a great, great solution. And beyond that, higher technology composting systems, like we toured at Kane University.
Right.
you got the sludge after that, right? The sludge gets used?
Yeah, and so under law, like going back a long time ago, you can't put sludge in the ocean, you can't landfill it, and you can't incinerate it. So the only thing you can do with it is called beneficial use. This would be an improvement to the sludge quality, because actually you're adding a cleaner organic matter, and so you'll have more organic matter at the end, but it'll be cleaner, and it enhances your ability to put it on the ground and put it to other beneficial uses as a fertilizer.
All right, pretty good.
So it's really exciting. It's only just 3, 4, 5 months old, so it's sort of our first big one, but boy, I'm really hoping that all the utility authorities will get interested in this, because it makes sense. We're making best maximized use of something we already paid for as the public, and we're doing something better for the environment. So Woodbridge is right there again.
Thank you, Gary. Any questions so far? Yes.
So you talked about more local recycling for the township. What about local recycling? Like composting of your food waste? Are you doing anything for school food waste, college food waste?
Well, we're doing the schools, and like
Okay.
I said, we hope to be able to have it be down the road, a point of pickup for everybody in the neighborhood, but we're not anywhere near there yet.
So,
We do an occasional workshop in the libraries, if you watch for it, on composting, how to do it, what to do. So, we're doing an educational outreach.
So I was talking more about composting on the school grounds, so the kids will be more.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. We're collecting the food. And
Yeah, sure.
then-
This is my first time, so
Yeah,
I'm new to
yeah.
this process. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, and it's so important. It doesn't hurt.
And
Yeah?
just like it triggered another thought, DEP is coming out within the next month or two with a dedicated education set of material on guidance for school recycling of food.
Oh, wow, great.
So it'll be right on point, and that I'm sure will get around to everybody, and hopefully will be a really valuable resource.
Yeah. And of course, as you know, we are dealing with the plastic bag situation. We have a kind of rule of thumb here, and you've probably heard me say before, we try to get buy-in, not pushback. So where other towns are passing ordinances, unless people start running to council meetings, we want you to pass an ordinance where it's just, we'd rather do the education piece like we were doing. Tom went to the concerts and, did the challenge. We'll give you a cloth bag if you give us your plastic bags, and explain to people why. And really, this is how we've seen the change since we started this program 10 years ago. We've seen people's behavior changing slowly as they start to hear it, they start to get the message. So if you're wondering why Woodridge, which is a leader in sustainability, is not one of the towns that's passing that ordinance, it's because two council people here, if you do one ordinance that makes people angry, that can slow down everything else that we're doing. So buy-in, not pushback. And it's been working so far. So what do we have to... So while I'm embarrassing people, Marie, do you want to talk about... We don't want to. I don't know.
About what?
Well, we already covered the bike paths, and I know
Right.
that's your thing. Just a little plug for the Environmental Commission.
Sure. So I'm Maureen Jorgensen, and I am chairing the Environmental Commission currently. I'm a teacher at St. James School as well, and do a lot of environmental things with my kids, with Tom, who awesomely last year took my 7th and 8th graders several times down to the wetlands and showed them and explained, and it was an amazing experience for my kids. The Environmental Commission has a number of things that we're doing. We will be at the street fair at St. James Street Fair next Saturday. We do an Earth Day fair where we bring in Bayshore and a lot of other vendors who just have different, vendors and groups that just have different environmental knowledge to pass or information to share. We are doing a community garden over at Parker Press and donating what we produce to food pantries, particularly St. James. And what did I say? I'm missing something.
Whatever. You do more. Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah.
But, it's education, I'm sorry? Seed library, that's the other one. We have a seed library at the Coors Library where people can go in and pick up seeds for vegetables, flowers, different things, and hopefully exchange at the end of the season, but we stock it in the spring. So that's always available to people who are interested in home gardening. So thank you.
There's just a couple of other things that I want to touch on. I think finally, maybe by the middle of October, we've been talking about this so long, I cannot believe that anything can be as difficult as trying to put batteries in the police car so they're not sitting there idling at the, when they have to do a construction site or something. And the government procurement can make a person go insane. So I think we finally have it. We have the company, and we're going to start with 3 cars, and as a pilot how can we lose, you know? So, and then we'll expand as we get more cars. But I don't know about all of you, but when I'm driving by that police car and I see that exhaust going and the motor and the lights and everything going, so what this battery does is they can turn off the car and they have their lights, they have their air conditioning, they have their computer, and if an emergency comes up, all they have to do is push a button and they're off and on the road right away. So we're excited about that, and that's a big one. So I think, because we've been talking for about an hour, anything else, or you want to just open it up? Yeah. I mean, if you see something on the handout that we didn't cover, you know, and you want to. Yeah.
Question. So you talked a lot about the composting and getting into the schools, and it's great stuff. So would there be an opportunity for you to go to the local food businesses in town as well and start a program
You
with
know,
that?
a lot of them are.
Okay,
Wegmans does stuff. The
Food
little
Town.
Food Town in
Colonia.
Colonia does. They have a phenomenal program. I wanted to jump in on theirs, but we couldn't. So yeah, a lot of them already do.
Okay,
But that is so in line with everything with the
that's what I mean.
reaching out.
Yeah,
Can I
makes
comment on that
sense.
too? I coordinate the community garden in St. John Vianney, which is a really large one. And we get compost from One Smoothie and from Not Just Bagels on Main Street. They bring us their eggshells, their buckets and buckets and buckets of coffee grounds and vegetable
That's fairly
rinds
new,
and
yeah.
peelings and
Yeah,
things.
we know.
So they're great partners in the community with the community gardens as well.
Yeah, we started that not too long
This
ago.
year, yeah, we've gotten really into composting there.
I'm just wondering, and Gary explained about, you know, we've read about China. Ever since we started to see that China shut the door, how do we tell our next door neighbor? I think people are still a little confused about recycling. I think a lot of people think, we don't have to do it anymore because China's not taking it. What are the many ways beyond what we're probably already thinking of that we can tell our next door neighbor, oh no, don't throw that little piece of plastic in the regular garbage, even though China's not taking, we're going to deal with it. I mean, what else can we do to educate everybody?
I mean, I just did a TV show. I'm taping another TV show next week, and it's just talking to people. Slowly but surely, look at it. It's very confusing. I have to look at that chart all the time when it comes to plastic. Like, at what point is the plastic too thin and it doesn't go in there? And then, you know, so it is. It's confusing. It's hard.
And part of it, you know, you're absolutely right, that one of the biggest problems we have as an industry is it's too confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the recommendations we made to the legislature is that we need to get together to figure out more uniformity. You know, because the way the law works, every county gets to pick what the required recyclables are in that county. So you have 21 different menus. And then beyond that, through Sustainable Jersey, what we try to do, which is a good thing, we try to push the envelope beyond those things. So like you might have 565 different lists depending on your town, and 21 mandatory lists depending on the county. So we talked about there's got to be a way of getting the experts in this together to figure out a way of making it simpler. Pizza box in, pizza box out. In my area, pizza box in.
Yeah.
Caps on, caps off. You know what the answer is? It depends on what the technology is to take it apart.
Wow.
What we tell people is leave the cap on, but deflate it. That's the best thing for us, because if we have optical scanners that can read it better when it's got a little size to it versus when you crush it down so small, they have trouble reading it. So, but that's too confusing. How do you express that to the public? You can't, right? We have to figure out a way to make it clear.
You partner with TerraSite?
We don't, because they're like a different niche side. I love what TerraCycle does and what they're doing with the Loop program. I think it would be a game changer to bring back the milkman for all of our consumer product materials. I think it's absolutely awesome. But they're not like mainstream recycling in volume. That's kind of what Bayshore does. They're more niche, you know, where they take cigarette
to
butts.
solve some of those other problems that are...
Yeah, we don't work with them too much, and they kind of like do their own thing, and they're masterful on the marketing side. So the whole reuse component is the biggest failure we've had in 40 years.
Right, I know
in this
it's
area.
a separate business, I understand, but I mean, just if there's any way to
idea. I mean, they even address diaper recycling, so that's really amazing.
We're recycling your SMS.
That's special.
What do they do for diaper recycling? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
Can you talk about diaper recycling?
What they actually have, the pilot, to my understanding, is in the Netherlands, which is very progressive environmentally, and they literally have drop-off centers in strategic locations that are like mailboxes. And so you open the thing, you put it in, it seals tight, and they collect all that, and they put it through a process to separate the plastic component from the fibrous component, and they can use the fibrous component to manufacture clothing. So I mean, and honestly, you hear the term zero recycling. Technology is not the problem. There are technologies to recycle everything. The problem is being able to do that in a sustainable way economically. That's where we get in trouble, because we have so much land in our country that our landfills are so cheap that these great technologies can't compete economically. That's our problem. And you don't have the land, so they're 40 years ahead of us in terms of progressive technology to recycle and close everything. We'll get there.
Any other questions, comments, ideas?
So again, I am new to this program, so if I repeat something, please excuse me for that. So I wanted to know if there's legislation we can pass to make solar mandatory for new buildings or businesses or something along those lines.
So, as I just said before, we have a policy of buy-in, not pushback. And strict ordinances, I just feel none of us want to be told what to do. And but when we have new businesses coming in, we talk about all of the green elements that they can be putting into this building, be it solar panels, be it the windows they're putting in, the installation in the buildings, the appliances, very much so with the stormwater management. That is crucial. So we do it as part of the redevelopment and the development, and not making them do it, but encouraging them.
I agree with your point, but the reason I brought solar up is there are a lot of tax credits associated, as well as a lot of state programs which subsidize having solar. So I think solar is the easiest to implement as a compulsory kind of thing. And as we all know, global warming, I believe everyone in this room believes in global warming, is happening at an alarming rate.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to push forward with these policies rather than be at passive side where you say, oh, okay, it's okay to do it. Kind of stance.
One of the exciting things that we're doing with solar, not with the businesses, but the state has come out with a grant program. It's called Community Solar, and we've applied to be a pilot community in that. And what it is we would go out and find solar farms or build solar farms, and it would go to people who are low and moderate income, people who normally could not benefit either because they live in a rented apartment or because they just can't afford to put solar on the roof. You hear, oh, I only pay 4 cents a month in electricity, but how much did you lay out for those solar panels? So it's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to be inclusive in this whole solar program. So we're really hoping that we get picked to be one of those pilot towns, because it's very exciting. And we do have a lot of, it won't be hard for us to identify the low and the moderate income people in town. So that's exciting. And we did have a program with the residential solar where how much, do you remember how many permits we give out? We give out probably more permits for residential solar than any town. I would
It was
dare to say that, right?
over 500 in a 6-month period.
Wow.
So it was significant. So that's just folks that just want to do it, right? Then we do what we can on a municipal level. You know, they're on just about every municipal building that it works and it makes the most sense
And
to
the
do
schools
so.
have them?
Schools. So we're definitely doing everything we can to make that a priority. And you know, in places where you just the economics don't make sense, if the building's not facing the right way, or you know what have you, there are these other opportunities, right? So like Carol said, in redevelopment opportunities, there's ways to think about, you know, the design of the structure, and can you get more natural light? Can you know, there are these other ways. So even here in Town Hall, all the lighting you'll see is upgraded to be more energy efficient and has a great return on investment and reduces the cost, and it also reduces the strain on the overall pull on the kilowatt hours. So it's not just, you know, solar looks great, it's appealing, it makes the most sense certainly on the aesthetic side of things, but there's so many other ways that we can get at the root cause of the greenhouse gases. You know, so I think when it makes sense, it's great for the right person, and like what Carolyn said, you know, now it doesn't have to be the right person because we're doing this great opportunity. So even if, you know, you're not necessarily always the right candidate, we're trying to make it more, you know, applicable to everyone by going after this grant.
So I have one more question. I don't know if you can answer this. Is it possible to get a sidewalk on Gill Lane towards Metro Park? Because a lot of people...
Oh my God, have we tried to do that? We have not been successful with it yet, and I apologize. Every time I drive down Gill Lane, I'm being an engineer, and I'm looking, how can we do this? How can we get around this? But, oh, you are so on the money, and we've asked the developer who came in, would he help us pay for it? Would we do it? We are trying. We are really trying.
Because there are a lot of commuters.
Yes, there
they would rather
absolutely
use
is.
bikes or walk instead of using cars or...
Yeah, I was even looking to see if there was a way to go like through all the apartments and everything, and not necessarily right on Gill Lane, but behind it, go back and forth, or walk through the cemetery, you know. But yeah, you're right on the money on that one, and we really are looking into it. We have not been successful yet.
So one last, actually I have two more. Sorry, this is my first time.
No, I love the passion, I love the excitement. Thank you.
So there's 4 farms on Gill Lane.
Pardon me?
There's a 4 farm area. It's called 4 farms on the plaque. I don't know if it's a different name. On Gill Lane, where you enter the cemetery.
You're talking about Middlesex and by the church. That terrible intersection. Yes.
I'm not sure if you're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
It's exactly on Gill Lane, at the start of the cemetery. Okay. So there is an area which is full of wildlife. I was wondering if we have any conservation efforts there. It's on Gill Lane, between it's between Metro Park train station and the bridge we are talking about.
The little wooded area?
Yes,
The
exactly.
little wooded area on Gill Lane.
It's
Down below the cemetery.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, below the
It's
cemetery.
called 4 farms on the plaque. I don't know.
I guess if anybody doing anything with that.
Are we? Is it a conserved area because it's full of wildlife? It has wild
We'll look
turkeys
into it.
and
I'm
deer.
not sure.
And, yeah.
If it's a conservation area, it will be mapped.
Okay.
So we'll look into it.
Yeah. So if it is not, I think we should look into conserving that.
Right.
The last one is the zoo at Merrill Park. Sorry, so many questions.
That's counted.
The zoo is actually, there is a lot of mismanagement in the zoo. A lot of animals are sick, and even if there are boards saying do not feed the animals, people feed them.
That is a county-run zoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I really can't address that.
Okay, yeah. That's all.
Thank you. No, I'm glad to see the interest. Thank you. Keep coming back.
I'm just curious if you know the thing that the Boy Scout camp. I guess it's going through.
Yep.
I was down there the other day and I saw some people
Finally
working out
got the
there. Really?
permits.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. When they time frame do you
I
think that?
think we're hoping for the fall, right?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Soon.
Boy Scout camp.
It's a,
On Omar Avenue.
right across from the park. So, yeah, we're hoping for, that was on the schedule, but I skipped it.
I was just curious, I seen you working there the other day.
Yeah, soon, Rich. Yeah,
Excellent.
I'll let you know.
All right, yeah. That'd be great.
Soon.
Kids are gonna love that.
Yeah, Scout Jamboree.
Down the stream a little bit. That'd be great.
So do we have the attendance? Did everybody sign up?
We don't, I do.
Did you stop passing it?
I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, okay. Did everybody sign up? We want to make sure that you're on our list. Good. And you saw Tom in my email, so if there's anything that you want to work on, you want to do, the green team is supposed to be active. So, please, play a part in it. Help us out.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
can get one